Hello, everyone. This is Servet Hassan. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc. It's a Sunday night in Southern California at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we've got a really great show, really interesting show, and a really relevant show because this woman is amazing. Her name is Anna Holub. She is a forgiveness counselor, an author, a poet, and a peace educator. And what the world could use her. They could use hundreds of her right now. She's got a BA in Peace Studies and an MA in Dispute Resolution from Pepperdine University School of Law. And she's also a certified domestic violence counselor and radical forgiveness coach. We all need some help with forgiveness, I'm sure. I can't think of anyone that doesn't, including myself. And over the past 20 years, she's been doing just that. She's been working with thousands of people, including teens, couples, inmates. There's an interesting story about some peace classes she was giving at San Quentin that we're going to talk about. At-risk families, nonprofits, businesses, and schools. And her latest book is called Forgive and Be Free, a step-by-step guide to release, healing, and higher consciousness. And you can find that and more about her on annaholub.com. It's ANAHOLUB.com. And I will repeat that later in the show for sure. And the reason I know her is because I contributed a couple of chapters to Llewellyn's complete book of mindful living. And Anna did too. Her chapter is called The Mindful Path to Acceptance and Forgiveness. So we've got a huge subject on our hand. We're just going to go for it. Anna, how are you?
Thank you, Servet, for having me on your show. I'm doing very well today. Very honored to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you doing it. Like I said, there's many other things you could be doing on a Sunday evening, and here you are with us. So I really appreciate that. Well, I mean, we've got a huge subject here, so I think, especially right now that with everything that's going on in this country and the world, we need forgiveness and we need to know how to forgive. So let's start at the beginning, though, because you have a really interesting background. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, how you got started with all of this, what prompted it and set you on this path?
Well, that question has so many levels to it. And as I talk about my own story in the book Forgive and Be Free, it's personal to me, of course. I grew up with a mother who had manic depression, and she got steadily worse. And so it was really difficult to be a child of somebody who struggles with mental illness, and maybe some people who are listening right now can relate to that. And anyway, when I was in my early 20s, I was pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant and going through my own real ups and downs. And she got worse and worse, and then she took her life.
Wow.
So
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was incredibly difficult time.
Well,
I gave birth within 3 weeks of that moment.
Oh my goodness.
And
you were still young. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. You were still young too, very young.
Oh yeah. Well, I was 23. I didn't have support with the dad, so I was doing it as a single mom. I was really in need of a lot of guidance and support. And I was about to become a mother myself. And I really wished I had a mother that I could ask for help from, but my mother wasn't really available. Not only that, she then chose that time to kill herself. And then the message was, I can't be with you. I can't help you. I can't stay in this world. And there's just a huge message of death rather than birth. And then 3 weeks later, I gave birth to my daughter. So it was really, really an incredibly hard time, and I felt very heartbroken over it.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Yeah. And plus, you were going through other things. I read in your book that you had dropped out of college, and there was occult thing, and then you left that, and you'd given up all your possessions and changed your name, and I mean, you really went through.
Yeah. I was really searching. I was searching for answers. I was searching for family. I was searching for something that felt stable. Because remember, I was growing up in a family that wasn't stable.
Right.
I mean, it looked pretty good from the outside, and certainly my father was a great provider. So it wasn't like I was suffering from a survival level, but emotionally it was very, very difficult to live in that situation. And yeah, I had all kinds of other things going on. I didn't have a penny to my name. The father of my child didn't want to have anything to do with parenting. And then my mother killed herself. And then I was a first-time mom at 23.
Oh, wow.
So,
I can't even imagine. I mean, but look, this is what set everything that happens. See, I think everything that happens to us happens for a reason. You know, it set you on a path. I mean, in my last book, Life in Transition, in the beginning, I did a dedication, and at the end of it, I said, and last but not least, thank you to everyone that ever broke my heart, because with every tear that fell, a gift emerged, and I wouldn't be where I am today. You know?
Right, exactly. And so the next thing I want to focus on after I tell that story is that was the point in my life where I really went deep into my spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. And yes, my friends really helped me at that time. And it was such a blessing to have people around me, some people who helped me out, gave me a place to stay, a place to have my daughter. You know, I slowly put my life back together again, and she is now doing fine and a beautiful young lady herself now. But at the time, what happened and the treasure within all of this is that I learned that I needed my divine connection, and that I would be absolutely lost and probably quite destitute in a lot of ways without it. Mm-hmm. So right. I just got really deeply committed to experiencing directly a sense of guidance and peace from that time. And I really, one of the things I learned was how strong I am, actually. How much I can do and can survive, not only survive, but thrive. Took a little while, though. I mean, that was a shocker, so it took me a while.
Well, everything is a process. I mean, and we were just talking about that a little bit earlier before we went on. It takes a little time to even forgive. And how long did that process take you to forgive your mother?
Well, you know, I didn't even know about forgiveness. I mean, I knew about meditation. I started my yoga practice even before my daughter was born. And I was doing my spiritual path as best I knew how. But it took me about 8 years to really open up the emotional box that I had put everything in, because I just didn't know how to handle it, really. So, and even then, that really didn't bring me to a forgiveness process. That took another 8 years. And that's when I connected with Colin Tipping's work called Radical Forgiveness. And I was so moved by how much healing came about because of it, and how much I was able to clear and feel peaceful about my mother and my connection with her now.
Right.
While she's on the other side. That's a really important piece, is to know that people who are dead, they're not dead. You know?
Right. And it's a key issue, because a lot of
without
people,
that, it's much harder.
Right. Right. It's a key issue, because a lot of people have forgiveness issues with people that aren't here anymore. And how do you handle that?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Okay, so let's see. What is your definition, to start with? What is your definition of forgiveness?
For me, what I'm teaching, what I'm offering, what I do for myself is not the traditional model of forgiveness. Mm-hmm. So what I offer is a very deep soul level letting go of suffering and pain and fear. So that unwinding and laying down of burdens and offering them to the God of our understanding, however each one of us tunes into that and whatever we call it, that offering of our pain is the first part of the forgiveness. The second part is once we have offered it and let it go, then there's an incredible receiving that happens. So we start to understand the gifts that were hidden inside the traumatic experiences. So the forgiveness that I'm offering is like what you said, thank you to everyone who's broken my heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the lesson? What's the teaching? What's the soul purpose of everything that's happening? And this forgiveness process really helps us to tune into that so that we don't overlook or pretend that all those really tough emotions aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel them and then we offer them. It's a very deep prayer is what the forgiveness process that I teach and share with people.
Can you talk about that a little bit? I think you called it a prayer sandwich.
Prayer sandwich?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
There is a free download on my website that has the prayer sandwich on it. Because really, I keep in mind all the time that the forgiveness is free. You know, it's available to everyone, just like love is free when we tune in and receive. So the prayer sandwich is a very, very simple 4-step process. In the book, it's a longer process because I go into more detail. Mm-hmm. But I call it the prayer sandwich because I start with the prayer, and that is a non-denominational thing. Mm-hmm. It's the prayer of the moment as it's spoken from the heart of each one of us. So for the people listening, if you want to try this out, I highly, highly recommend that we put ourselves into a sacred space first before we do anything else. The sacred space is always here. It's always available, but we remember consciously, I want to be in this sacred space because I need help. I'm not doing this on my own as an individual unit. I want to do this with the help and support and connection to our Creator, our God of love. So we start with a prayer, and then we do the process, and we end with a prayer. Mm-hmm. And that's why I call it the prayer sandwich.
Well, there's peanut butter and jelly in the middle there, too. Right? In your chapter in Llewellyn's book.
I didn't hear that part.
I said there's peanut butter and jelly in the middle of the prayer sandwich as well. Right?
Yes.
Yes. Explain that.
I call it a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because it's actually easy to remember.
Uh-huh.
You think, oh, what was that thing she said again? Oh, yeah, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Start with the prayer. That's the bread. Then the peanut butter is all the sticky stuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with peanut butter. It's actually quite lovely, but it's sticky, you know? So it's the stuff that has stuck. What is it from our past that is painful memory, is traumatic residue that's not only in our minds, but in our emotions and our cell walls and our bodies as well. And where's the fear? Where's the anger? You know, all those things. That's the sticky stuff. And so those are the things that in our forgiveness process, we take an honest look at what it is. We're open for change and for healing, and we're willing to do the work. And then the deep letting go comes once we have sat with it. I've talked to a lot of people, and they say, oh, yeah, I forgave that. Yeah, I let it go. And I can tell by the way they talk about it that they really haven't explored it with depth.
Right.
It's very important to really feel the emotions and find out where did I park them, you know, in the body and what is going on. And then from that place, we have something conscious to offer.
Mm-hmm. And then the jelly is kind of the sweet stuff, the opening to grace. more or less.
Yes.
Right? And
Exactly.
then you end it with a prayer, which is the other piece of bread.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great exercise. It really is. I mean, it's tough for people to, resentment, it's like Nelson Mandela said that resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemy. It's like we keep so much, it's not easy to do this. I mean, we're talking about it's not easy to do. One of the suggestions that you made too, and I love this as well because it's step 4 of the 12 steps, which is to do a searching and fearless moral inventory. And I've studied the 12 steps because I try to study as many things as I can. And I think they should teach the 12 steps in high school to everybody. I don't think it's about alcoholism. I think it's just about how to live a good life, actually. So, did you do that? Is that part of what you do to help you forgive?
Did I do what? Step 4?
Step 4. Does that help? I'm asking, is this a good way to get in because it's a difficult process to get in yourself and find out what the sticky stuff is, the peanut butter, the stuff we have to release. Is that one method of doing it, to go in and give yourself a searching and fearless moral inventory, sort of?
Well, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I am familiar with 12-step. I have been to 12-step myself after I got into this forgiveness work, and I was just amazed at how similar energetically the 12-step is with this forgiveness process, in that it takes deep, deep honesty. So the inventory that we do in this forgiveness work is we inventory all the places that have not yet been forgiven. And the way that we do that is to make a list of all the things, people, places, agencies, governments, whatever you want, of all the places where you have not received an apology. And if you were going to leave the body and be done with this lifetime in an hour, where would be the places that you're not complete yet? And that brings it up really fast.
Yes.
So that includes everyone and everything, doing the scan, and it takes a little while, and it's a very, very deep meditation to make an actual list. So that's where it's similar to step 4. It is an inventory of the pain and suffering of our lives. Mm-hmm. And even if you have gotten an apology, but you didn't like it, so it's not quite done yet,
right.
If it comes up at all, it's worth putting it on the list. And there's a lot of fascinating themes that come up for our lives, because as I tell people when I work with them one-on-one, I do counseling one-on-one and with couples. So we get to have some time together to really deeply explore. And I say to them, when you really check in, you will find all kinds of pain and sadness, and underneath the anger, there's usually sadness and hurt feelings and all those kinds of things. So in this work, we look at the human experience. Yes, my name's Anna, and I have my history, and your name's Servet, and you have your history, and we're women, and all this. So each person has that.
Right.
But in addition to that, we have our vast soul level that is much, much greater than the small piece of history that we call this one lifetime.
Right.
So we're looking for the themes of, why did this happen? For instance, why did I get born into a family where my mother had so much mental suffering? What was that for me? Not against me, for me.
Mm-hmm. No.
What was the gift in that for me?
For your soul.
And so,
for your soul to grow.
for my soul.
Right.
Where I wanted to wake up and heal and uplift this place for all of creation.
Right. Well, I remember having a really huge fight with my daughter, who's just turned 27 a couple of days ago, years ago, and we were going at it like there was no tomorrow. And she's I raised a really strong, don't you stand up for yourself kind of girl. And she looked at me, and I didn't know what else to say to her. And I said, well, it's your fault. You picked me. And she went, what? I said, you picked me. You should have been more careful about what you were choosing at the time. And she just stared at me like I'd lost my mind. And I said, and then again, too, you know what? You might have been my mother once, or I might have been your mother before, too. And I think you screwed me up. And she was like, what the heck are you talking about? I was just trying to get her off of being angry. But there is some truth to that, We do, I think, have some soul contracts, or we're getting a lesson, whether we like it or not. We're learning something very important, and it's up to us whether we get the lesson or not. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and there are many, many layers of lessons that I definitely agree with that. Mm-hmm. And it was before my book came out. I guess I was in the process of writing it. And I didn't used to talk about my personal story. I just did the forgiveness work, but I didn't really let people in on my past that much. And one of the reasons why was because I didn't want to be disrespectful to my mother's memory, to keep bringing up her suicide. I just felt like, you know what, I don't want this to be some kind of marketing tool, and it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I felt being more private about it was more respectful to her. But then I started to get nudges from God to come out and state that story. And I was a little hesitant, but I started to write what became the chapter in my book where I go into it in detail. And at one point I received a couple of messages from my mom on the other side, which moved me to my soul. And I understood that she is with me and that she is completely on my team. Like right now, as we're speaking, she in all her glory is part of this message. Oh, so that it was okay to talk about it, and that it wasn't disrespectful, and it was necessary to be able to share with people what a full healing looks like.
Right. Wow, that's interesting, because now when someone has passed away, how do we deal with that? Is there a different method? Is it the same method? Because if they're alive, sometimes we can approach them and do it physically. But if they're not, that option's completely out of question.
Mm.
Is there?
Well, this work happens soul to God and souls to soul. So it really isn't about our personality. It isn't even about if we get along. It isn't even about if we like each other. Right. It really is that we are deep teachers for each other. We will bring up the stuff that needs to be healed. And so whether the person is alive in a body or not, the inner work can still be done because it's all about our freedom.
Right.
So I don't even suggest speaking to the person directly until all the inner work is done. And then if you get intuition and guided to speak to the person, then great, go for it. And a lot of times there's magic, and miracles that happen in people's relationships, and people will call each other out of the blue, and they haven't spoken in 20 years, and one person does the inner work and bingo, the other person calls and says, oh, you're so important to me, or something like that. That does happen because we know each other. We're naked before each other. And we just pretend that we're not.
Right. You're right, though. It really is about doing our own work on ourselves. I think you say forgiveness will save your life, and I truly believe that, because in the end, it's forgiving, but who we're giving to is ourselves, because we're giving up allowing that situation or person or whatever event happened to affect us anymore on a soul level, on a deep level. So there's an old saying, forgiving is me giving up my right to hurt you for hurting me. And that's kind of similar to what I just said, that it no longer affects you, and then you have no reason to want to have anger towards anybody anymore, because it's done. It's already completed. It's because it's no longer about them, it's about you.
And there are deep lessons for us. It looks maybe like the other person, but there's always a portion of self-forgiveness inside all of these things that we have going on with other people.
Right.
And in addition to that, once we learn the lessons, then we become so much more peaceful inside, and then we become more able to walk around being a peaceful person, which uplifts everyone. So yes, the forgiveness is for me and you and each person personally. And in addition to that, it affects the entire tapestry, the whole weaving of who we are. And the more that we heal ourselves, the more we heal the world.
Well, okay, speaking too about the world, let's talk about that, because there's a lot going on in the world, right, in the country right now. How do we, as a community, forgive?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if we can do it as a community unless each of us is ready. I think we're a little far off from the community level, although that would be fantastic. But just being realistic,
right?
One by one, because it's contact with spirit and with our own inner sadness and fear that needs to be offered up. Whether it's forgiving someone else or forgiving ourselves, it works the same way. So I would say that as far as what's going on in the world and in our country, a couple things I see that are lacking. One is taking responsibility for the energy that we're putting out. No matter what happens with anyone else, we are responsible. We are emitters. We are transmitters of either love or a call for love, which sometimes looks like fear, and then that can be translated into violence. And absolutely, we're each responsible for what we put out into the world. And people don't seem to realize that, so they think it's fine to just fight back in a way that is aggressive and violent, and that just escalates conflict. It just keeps it going, recycling over and over and over. So no matter what our opinion or our way of making the world better is, and it may not be in agreement with others, if we realize that we are responsible for the energy that we put out into the world, then that would change a lot of things. So it's my prayer that more and more people understand that and wake up to it.
Right.
The other thing is that I feel that we have lost in this country many people have lost the ability to have a discussion where they don't agree. We have lost the ability to simply listen to somebody else's point of view, be able to take that in, disagree with it, and with civility state our case and look for common ground and look for a creative way to use everyone's ideas for the good of the whole. Instead, people, it seems to me, have either lost an ability or have never been taught, simple communication skills of respectful listening and speaking in such a way that is assertive yet not aggressive. So those are the outer levels of peacemaking that I also teach.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's true, because it used to be that people would disagree and that would be okay. They agreed to disagree. They didn't turn it around and turn it into, I remember Mother Teresa saying once, they asked her if she would go to an anti-war rally, and she declined. She said, I won't fight anything. I won't go to an anti-anything. I will go, she said, if you do a pro-peace rally. And I found that very interesting, because it's true, even it's like the society right now is trying to combat everything instead of going towards the positive and being more proactive in that sense. So I hope there's a change coming. Do you foresee that?
Do I foresee what?
A change where we can actually stop fighting.
Yes, I hold that in my heart every day. And I have since I can remember, even as a small child. I just somehow knew that this place called Earth can be a heaven for everyone. And that is what I hold in my heart all the time. And I have witnessed people for instance, in my work in San Quentin, and now I work with at-risk youth in juvenile hall, and I have witnessed people who have done terrible violence and been very, very dangerous to be around, and I have seen them wake up, and it is the most inspiring thing in the entire planet for me, is to see how fast any human being can come into love should we so choose.
Right. Well, I'm going to open it up to callers as well, if you don't mind. If anybody has a question for Anna, the number is 949-313-8880. Again, it's 949-313-8880. If you have a question about anything we've been discussing, or you're stuck on a forgiveness issue, then feel free, call in. We'll take a question. Callers. The other thing I was going to ask you about, Anna, too, is the idea of acceptance. In order to forgive, do we have to accept?
I think we need to accept what already happened. We need to accept, for instance, for me, I need to accept that I chose to be involved in a very small cult, which kind of whacked me out good for a number of years,
Yes.
I just sort of went in a very different path than most people. It took me a long time to find myself and what I thought was true. I need to accept that I made those decisions. I'm responsible for that. And I gained a lot from it. It took me a while to realize that. Same with, I need to accept that my mother could not function here and she chose to kill herself. If I am fighting that piece of reality of this world, I will never be able to relax into what is a gift for me in it. So in that way, I think, yes, we do need to accept. It doesn't mean we roll over and don't care. I talk about the difference between apathy and acceptance in the chapter in that book on mindfulness.
Right.
That people go, oh yeah, it's kind of like saying, yeah, I forgave that. Oh yeah, I let it go, in that tone of voice. Like, oh yeah, I just accept it.
Oh yeah,
but
I've heard
you
that.
can kind of feel how if you accept that the world is screwed up and you don't care anymore and you just want to sit and watch TV and get stoned all day, that is not acceptance. That's checking out, right?
Well, or
denial, we need
too.
to be honest with ourselves.
Right, or it's denial too, which is not psychologically or spiritually sound, right?
Well, yeah, denial is a similar thing, checking out or being dissociated or in denial. It's just kind of trying to put our finger on a pause button. You know, it's kind of like saying, well, don't make me work on this. I really don't want to deal with it. And, you know, we're free. We are so free. We can do that as long as we want. Right. We are eternal. We can do it for lifetimes. However, since it brings suffering, I mean, why?
Right. Right. You're right. There's a difference. It's also not cynicism either. You know, I hear a lot of people who say they're forgiving and they're just being cynical now.
Mm.
You know, so there's acceptance, I think, is you know, just allowing it and knowing it's, so you're not being apathetic towards it. You're not being cynical. You're not in denial. You understand that it happened. And like you said, just because, you know, if someone did harm to you and you forgive them, that doesn't mean you have to have lunch with them. You know, you just forgave them and right. that's it. You can move on. You know, you don't have to be friends. It's more a process within you. And then wherever the path takes you after that, that's acceptance to me, I think.
Yeah, and acceptance is a first stage, because we can accept it and then stay there and feel like, oh yeah, okay, I'm feeling neutral. I'm not in so much suffering that, for instance, you know, a loved one kills themselves and we're trying to put our mind, our heart back together again and keep going on this earth. If we accept it, that's one level of the process. And going deeper into the forgiveness model that I'm using here, there's a letting go of the suffering and offering it as a prayer, as an unburdening to spirit. And when we do that, then we start making room for clearing out, making room for the blessings, the teachings, the intuitive wisdom that will come directly from source to us, to our hearts and minds.
Right. And that, yeah, exactly. You have to give it up, I think. You know, people throw that, the term let go and let God around a lot and don't quite get it. But I think you summed it up really well there, because when you really let go and let God, that you're handing it over. You're giving it up.
Yeah, it's a radical thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not in a scary sense, but in a kind of a brazen way of saying, you know what, the recycling of pain and suffering in my life and in the world is no longer acceptable to me. I want something different. I want something intensely different. And that's where this forgiveness process really opens up huge. It's the major doorway in our enlightenment. There's no way in the world any of us is going to get enlightened or liberated, or however you want to say it, you know, deeply, deeply in peace and in communion with God, unless we walk through the doorway of forgiveness. It is mandatory.
I agree wholeheartily. I can't argue with that. No, I totally agree with that. If anyone has a question, I'm going to open it up one more time, and I'll give you the number. It's 949-313-8880, because we're running out of time, and Anna's going to go on with her beautiful Sunday evening soon, and we're going to close the show. So if anybody has a question, you know, it's funny, people tell me they have questions, like dozens of people, and then here we are on the show and no one's calling. So call in. Now's your opportunity to talk to Anna. So Anna, tell me how people can find you.
Right. I was just thinking that, you know, if you're listening and you're a little shy to get on the phone and get on the radio, no problem. You can email me. Take a look at my website. See, I have some free downloads. I also have lots of tools, and I have the option to work with me in person or on Skype or on the phone. So lots of levels of help and tools. So my website is AnnaHolub.com. That's ANAHOLUB.com. That's B like brother. ANAHOLUB.com.
Okay, hello. We have a caller. Hello?
Hello. I was listening to you and simultaneously calling in, so I'm trying to walk away from the radio.
Okay, that's all right. What's your name?
My name's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
And I had a question about the length of the process, and I guess it's just a willingness to allow yourself to feel that pain all over again before you can give it up and move through it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for asking that question. You know, we don't have to feel the pain of the entire memory of all the details. We do not have to rake ourselves over the coals, so to speak, in order to get the depth of the forgiveness I'm talking about. But we do have to be honest, open, and willing. HOW, that's how we do it. Honest, open, and willing enough to touch it and stop denying it, to slow down enough to say, this is it. This is the spot. This is a spot I have not wanted to deal with. This is a spot I have reached for many other things in this world to help me forget about this spot. So we need to at least be willing to touch it and acknowledge it and feel it and then offer it. So it becomes much less about the details of the story and much more about where is this very, very poignant, tender place inside of us. And there are many, that we just do step by step, one at a time. And you asked how long does it take? The actual forgiveness itself is outside of time. What I mean by that is when we're communing with Spirit, there is no time. But if you look at it within the world and you say, well, how much time do I need to really get into this? I do sessions which are an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And a lot of that is just kind of preparatory. And then the actual forgiveness doesn't take long at all. So once you learn how to do this and you normalize it in your life, you can do this prayer and get the blessing of it in a relatively short time, like a matter of minutes sometimes.
Does that answer your question, Lisa?
It does. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, I think we have time for another short call if anyone wants to, anybody else. I think you're right, Anna. It's hard for people they get a little shy when it comes to subjects like this, because it's a very personal thing that they're usually talking about. So I'm glad that you gave them your website again. But if anybody else wants to open up and has another quick question, it's 949-313-8880. And do that now.
And what I was going to mention, too, is once you get on my website, there's a way to contact me. Good. So feel free to email me and ask me, the question that maybe you were a little shy to ask on the air.
Yeah, these are issues that are usually difficult for people to talk about out loud sometimes. And also you do have a book. I want to mention that again. It's called Forgive and Be Free, a step-by-step guide to release, healing, and higher consciousness. Which does it have the how process in there as well?
Yes, it has an exploration of what this kind of forgiveness is. It has stories from my life and the lives of my clients that, have been made confidential, of course, but, right. Just ways in which people have used this and it worked. So you can see, oh yeah, I can relate to that story. And then it has also the step-by-step process of how to do this in using your own experience and try it out. This book is also now an audiobook as well that I read. So it's my voice. And it's an audiobook. It's available on audible.com.
Good. Awesome. That's nice. Are you working on anything else right now?
I am. I'm working right now in the area of addiction and how forgiveness is crucial for true, not only physical, but emotional and spiritual sobriety. So helping people to realize that if you are suffering from an addiction of any kind, be it behavioral or substance abuse kind of thing, that is just being fueled by places within yourself where you have not yet forgiven. And when you do forgive, then the addiction is going to fall away.
Wow. So you think it's all directly connected to something within us that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't forgiven, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a place where we're not at peace inside.
Right.
And one of my areas of interest that I'm writing about, and eventually we'll create a course around it, is not only the obvious addictions, but the subtle ones. Because you need to wake up to the places where we're having thoughts that loop around and cause harm and suffering in our lives. And those thoughts are all connected to places where we have not yet forgiven inside of ourselves. But the good news is it's not really a problem, because this forgiveness is always available. It's free once you learn how to do it, and it will change your life.
Right, right. Well, and I agree. And I think that monkey mind, those thoughts that are looping around all the time, some people aren't even conscious of them, and they're very harmful. And they are an addiction. People get addicted to being, some people get addicted to being stressed and being, really hard on themselves.
Right.
Which
so some examples would be, if we're addicted to always being right, or we're addicted to apologizing for ourselves too much, or addicted to getting the credit, those kinds of things will really mess up our relationships, and we're not at peace when we're doing that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. I find that fascinating. So is it another book you're writing about that, or courses?
Eventually, yes. I think it will be a course. I have 3 courses on the internet right now, and I like that format. So I know it'll be a course about, it'll be Forgive and Be Free of Your Addiction.
Oh, nice.
So,
I like that too.
Yeah.
I do.
It'll be linked to the Forgive and Be Free book and the audio book. There is a course already on the internet, which you can see on my website, that it's just more interactive, and it gives people more ways to connect with themselves and taking it piece by piece.
That's interesting, and I think that format, I like that format too, so I think that's going to work well. I just feel right now I'm doing more video for the upcoming courses that I'm redoing the video, the courses that I have, and adding video to them, and that's my personal challenge, and I get to forgive myself all the time, because when we look at ourselves on video, there's just all kinds of possibilities for criticizing ourselves and not loving what we see, and just messing up 1,000 times and all that kind of stuff. Yes, tell me about it. It's true. And so much of what I do is live. Like this show right now is live. So if I mess up, I've messed up. There's no going back. There's no do-over, at least on a video. But I know exactly what you mean, because we're hard on ourselves. I think we are our worst critics as people. It's just a natural human trait to.
Yeah, and in the book Forgive and Be Free, I talk about gender and culture, and how those are areas, also our sexual identity. Those are all very basic human areas where some forgiveness issues may well be lurking, and in addition to whatever is personal with a person.
Right. Right. Well, this has been a great show. I really appreciate you coming on and spending an hour here with us. I'm going to open it one last time. If anybody has a really quick question, 949-313-8880. you can do so now or forever hold your peace. This show,
or just send me an email.
No, that's probably what people do. Most of them do is they listen to and a lot of people will listen to the show later because the show, if you miss it, gets uploaded onto my YouTube channel. So a lot of people will catch it there. It's the Servet Hassan channel on YouTube. So, and I will also send you an MP3 of the show as well, Anna, so you can post it anywhere you want. Okay?
Thank you very much. And, I know that you yourself work with awakening and intuition, and so I just want to acknowledge that what we're doing is so complementary to each other's work.
Right, it is. It's all about raising levels of consciousness. I think, and that's connecting with love. That's why all this fighting in the world is just we've got to come from a place of peace and love, and that's all that counts. There isn't anything else. We as a world play. We fight too much. Everybody's fighting everybody. It's crazy. And I don't know where and how that happened, but it did sociologically. So it'd be nice if we could, if we start waking up and just saying, no, that's enough. Let's come from love.
Right.
Right?
And absolutely. In A Course in Miracles, which is very important to me personally in my spiritual path, Jesus says, we need to walk off the battlefield.
Right.
And I really agree with that. It's sort of what you were just saying. Just walk off. Just don't engage with it and find out what else there is and what else is love.
Right. Transcend it completely. Walk it. That's a great way to put it. I'm a big fan of Course in Miracles too. I've studied it as well. I kind of try to learn about many paths, but that's a good one. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Please continue the good work and, especially with peace and your counseling and everything else you're doing. And I'm going to say your website one last time.
Sure. It's my name, AnnaHolub.com, ANAHOLUB.com.
Well, there you go. And thank you. And enjoy the rest of your evening and peace to you.
Yes, many blessings to you too, so that thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Well, that was Anna Holub, who is an amazing woman. And if you were listening, she had a lot of really, really good things to say. If you missed part of it or all of it, or you want to pass it on, it will be on my YouTube channel later. I'll upload it there. It's the Servet Hassan channel on YouTube. It's SERVET, and my last name is HASAN. That's also the name of my website. It's servethassan.com, SERVETHASAN.com. Also, my email is servet@servethassan.com. So if you have any comments, this show is for you guys. I really want to hear from you. I hear myself talk enough, So if you have any comments or suggestions or any guests you'd like to see on the show, this is all about helping you guys raise your consciousness to make real changes in your life. That's what it's all about. So feedback is always welcome. I'd really love to hear from you if you have something to say. Check out my blog, Memos from My Higher Self. I post a blog every day on that site. It is, you can get to it on my website too. There's a link, but if you don't have it, you can go to servethassan.com and my blog. It explores my own higher consciousness every day. It's short, it's sweet, but hopefully what it will do is prompt you to explore your consciousness in a way that you lift yourself up. There are no big secrets out there. Everything's been said a million times by a million different people. And the bottom line is that the answers are all inside of you. You have them inside of you, and all you need to do is have someone facilitate you discovering them and uncovering them and then recovering them within yourself so that you become the best you can be, the most authentic, true person that you can be. And when you do that, the magic happens all by itself. The law of attraction and all those other bazillions of laws out there work, and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to know what they are. The magic happens when you start being more of who you really truly are. And that's why I always end the show by saying, be you to the full, because that's what's beautiful, even though I still have a few more minutes. But that's why I say that, because it's about you finding out who you really are. And all my books are on my website and on Amazon, How to Read Any Man's Mind. And then the 3 I wrote for Llewellyn Worldwide Limited are Tune 'em In, Turn 'em On, and The Intuitive Heart of Romance. And the last one that won an International Book Award is Life in Transition, an intuitive path to new beginnings. Everybody's going through some kind of transition, because that's what life is. Anyway, check it out. My website, www.servethasan.com. And again, be you to the full, because that is what truly is beautiful. And stay tuned for Ronald Reeder. He's up next. And anything else you need from me, you can find on my website. And thank you for joining me. And I'd really love to hear from you. And stay with us for the next shows we're doing in the future every Sunday, 6 p.m. Thank you. Bye.